The Mavericks break their 4-game losing streak by taking out their in-state rival San Antonio Spurs. How they got it done in a big night for Daniel Gafford. All that coming up next here on the Dlls Mavs postgame show. Hey, what's up, Dlls Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are Dlls Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single game night at Kevin Gray Sports, at Bobby Carella. You can always dial up the Stein line for our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, and our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato, at Tim_Cato. Mavericks snapped their 4-game losing streak by getting a 110-93 win at home over the San Antonio Spurs, as the Mavericks, who had lost their last 4 games in a row by a combined total of 8 points, turned what was a slow start in the first quarter around into a dominant win at home over San Antonio. Lukadoncic finishing the game with 16 points in 28 minutes. Kyrie Irving with 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And Daniel Gafford, a big night for him with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 big blocks on the night, as the Mavericks get off to a good start on their home road back-to-back. Of course, they're going to be on the road tomorrow night to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. But Bobby Carella, the Mavericks did what they had to do, get a win, get things hopefully back on track as they get ready to take on the Thunder in what was, for the final 3 quarters of this game, a good performance by this team.
Yeah, be uninteresting, be unsexy, be uncool, and just take care of business.
Yes.
Get out of there healthy. You know, there was one moment in the first half, or maybe early third quarter, when Luka was kind of grabbing his knee for a second, and we're like, okay, well, I guess the season's over, but he seemed to be fine. And Kyrie led the team in minutes played with 28 minutes and 25 seconds of game action. So, you know, everybody should be well rested. Everyone should be feeling good. Clay didn't even play 19 minutes. That's exactly what you want. This is exactly what we wanted. Before the game, I said, Kyrie, I don't want to see you in the fourth quarter. I just don't. I don't want to see you in the fourth quarter. And he did not play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Dereck Lively barely played in the fourth quarter. Maybe I wish he would have played a little more in the fourth quarter for my own personal, but
personal reasons.
You know, it ended up, you know, this is what was supposed to happen.
That was what's supposed to happen.
I mean, it's not like there's nothing about it.
I thought you had more. You was about to say something
I don't
else.
have any more. No, it's just really it. Like, my take from the game is this was the game I expected to see. I expected to see the Mavs play, I'm better than you. I wish they would have played, I'm a lot better than you.
Yeah.
But, you know, the game was pretty much out of reach, you know, early in the third quarter, which is exactly what I said. I said leave a little doubt going into the half, and then come out in the third quarter and say, you know, it's done, it's over. And that's what they did. So, hey, great job.
A workmanlike performance from the Dallas Mavericks. We'll see you in the chat as well. Shout out to Ben. We'll see you, Ronald. We'll see you all there in the chat as well. Let us know your thoughts on how you're feeling about the Mavericks win tonight. As we mentioned, a get-right game for them as they're able to snap their 4-game losing streak.
You want to know who else is getting right?
Oh, what's that?
I don't know if that one came through, but I just cracked one open.
I'm sure it did.
Okay. All right.
Bobby cracks open a cold one here in honor of the win for the Dallas Mavericks. By the way, their first win in 10 days for this Dallas team. So good to get
I almost forgot what victory tastes like.
They did too. The way that things have been going over the last 10 days. As we mentioned, Luka with 16, Kyrie with 22. Jaden Hardy wound up with 12 points in this game. Daniel Gafford with 22 as the Mavericks had 4 guys in double figures. Zach Collins led the San Antonio Spurs in double figures with 20 points tonight. Julian Champagnie, Bobby's favorite San Antonio Spur, had 13 points. Stephon Castle had 12, and Chris Paul had 11 points. As the Spurs did not have Victor Wembanyama in this game, he sat due to a right knee injury after playing, of course, last night against the Los Angeles Lakers. PJ Washington made his return as well for the Mavericks tonight. He played 19 minutes in this game, didn't score, but was a +9, had 4 rebounds and 2 assists and a couple of steals. His defense and his energy and activity, much needed for this team. It was good to see PJ back on the floor, getting his legs back under it after missing 5 straight games with a knee injury himself.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm trying to think, because Maxey played opening night, right? Or am I wrong there? Maybe he played opening night in the second game. I don't remember. But I mean, we've only seen the Mavs' top 10 guy. I guess we've seen the Mavs top 10 0 times because Dante's been out the whole year. But we've seen the Mavs essentially their preferred rotation from camp only a couple times this season. Twice against the Spurs, as a matter of fact. But it's just really nice whenever you go to the bench and you're playing second stringers instead of third stringers or fourth stringers. I mean, a week ago, like we're talking about, being in the throes of agony. A week ago, the Mavs are trying to win a game against a Suns team that at that time had lost 1 game, was on a 6 or 7 game winning streak or whatever. And their second unit was like Dinwiddie, who did not play until the fourth quarter tonight. Omax, who did not play until the fourth quarter tonight. Dwight, who did not play until the fourth quarter tonight. So, like they played second stringers tonight. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a matter of time before PJ's back in the starting 5, you would think. But, yeah, they had 9 or 10 of their best players tonight. And, the Spurs missed a couple of them. But, yeah, it was nice to have PJ back in there. He made a couple plays on defense, had 2 steals, had a nice pass. It was almost, we called it like it wasn't quite a no look. It was like a some look.
Like a half look?
Yeah, he's like his head is going to the corner, but out of the corner of his eye, he sees Gafford there, and he hits him in transition. It was nice. And, 4 rebounds. And, the Mavs tonight, a very rare night where we didn't have to count rebounds.
Yeah,
that was nice too.
That was good to do as well. Didn't get off to a great start for Dallas in this game. Again, losing another first quarter. They were down by 5 at the end of one, 28-23.
How were you feeling at that point?
I wasn't feeling very good. Not to think that they wouldn't necessarily win this game, but it was just more like deja vu. Here we go again. Another slow start in a first quarter. Why is this happening against a team that clearly doesn't have its best player? And in a game where you don't necessarily want your starters playing a lot of minutes, a really dominant start would have made things a little bit easier, but you were able to turn things around. The Spurs used what was a 10-0 run to take a 7-point lead eventually with 1:30 left to end that first quarter. They led 28-23 at the end of one, but the Mavericks were able to get things turned around, especially in that second quarter, as they were using what was a 20-7 run to be able to take the lead going into halftime, and they led by 4 there. And then they opened up the third quarter with a really nice start and really just kind of took things over from there. And as you mentioned, really taking control of this game in that third quarter. Kyrie Irving was able to get things going. Kyrie Irving had 11 points, and Daniel Gafford had 12 as well in that third quarter there.
So in the first quarter, Spurs lead 28-23. They shot 38% from the floor. They had a 28-23 lead because the Mavs are fouling a lot, which has been a big problem lately. The Mavs committed 4 turnovers that the Spurs were scoring on. That's been an issue lately. And the Spurs had 3 offensive rebounds, and that's been an issue lately. So the first quarter was the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And then in the second quarter, the Mavs stopped allowing offensive rebounds. They stopped turning the ball over. I think they, at least at the time that everyone subbed out of the game, the Mavs had only committed 5 turnovers in the second half. And even whenever the third and fourth stringers came in, they committed 0. So the Mavs committed 5 turnovers total in the second half. So they started taking better care of the ball. They started controlling the glass, and they still forced misses. The Spurs finished this game, Kevin, 31.8% from the floor.
Yikes.
That is the 13th lowest field goal percentage by a Mavs opponent in franchise history. We're talking almost 50 years of basketball. The Mavs have never lost a game whenever a team has shot that poorly. And here's a bit of trivia to impress your friends with, or to impress your date with whenever you go out. The Spurs own the record for the lowest field goal percentage in a win against the Mavs, 33.0% in 2008.
Wow.
So the Mavs lost the game allowing that shooting. That was once upon a time. But, the Spurs started the game shooting poorly. They ended the game shooting poorly. The thing that changed was controlling possession of the ball, not giving them the ball.
Yeah.
Not allowing them to rebound the ball. Like taking control, imposing your will.
And that's exactly what we wanted them to do in this game. A couple of other numbers from this game. Spurs shot 11 of 40 from downtown. That is just 27.5% from 3. But they did go 26 of 30 from the free throw line. Speaking to your point about how much fouling was going on,
Stop fouling.
especially in the first half, as the Spurs went 26 of 30 from the line, Mavericks went 14 of 18 from the charity stripe. They went 8 of 31 from downtown, though. That would be a whopping 25.8% that the Mavericks shoot from three in this game. But they didn't need a lot of threes because they were doing a lot of damage, especially with their bench. Their bench outscoring San Antonio's 54 to 33 in this game. Daniel Gafford doing a lot of that damage. And it was good to see him really be able to put a game together. He has been much maligned as of late for the lack of rebounding that we've seen in these games. Daniel Gafford was able to put it together in this game and really had a nice effort to help the Mavericks get this win tonight.
He and Lively both. I mean, Gafford had a couple post-ups that was nice. He had a baby hook over Collins. He backed down Collins and threw down a dunk on him. That was awesome. Had a couple putbacks. He was 9 for 10. But he and Lively combined for 7 blocks. The Spurs without Wemby, let's be honest, dude. They're not very good with Wemby.
Sure.
Wemby and Vassell were out tonight. That's a horrible team, And so the Mavs needed to do what they did. They beat the brakes off them, like you said. But San Antonio shot just 40% in the lane. 16 for 40. 40 is not a lot of shots in the lane in an NBA
And then
game.
when you only make it 16 of them.
Yeah, and only 16 of them. And again, 7 of them got blocked by just the 2 bigs. The Mavs forced a couple turnovers. They stripped a couple guys going to the rim. They just did a good job controlling the paint. And obviously that's a little easier whenever you don't have to pay as much attention to the shooters. So they were able to shrink the floor a little bit. I mean, it's really, it's great that they were able to do the thing we thought they were going to do the other night against Utah. But J. Kidd before the game, I read that quote and it was kind of like this kind of almost a backhanded compliment or a loaded compliment about Luka, and about end of game situations. But J. Kidd has also many times talked about intensity, many times talked about, coming out flat, not bringing energy or whatever. And Gafford came off the bench tonight with energy. Lively got off to a fine start. Lively had a couple points early, couple buckets early. And then Gafford came in and really kind of changed the tenor of the game, And it's really, really nice whenever your bench can either get you back into a game or expand your lead instead of treading water at worst or at best, or just giving the lead away at worst. And in the first quarter, the bench had a terrible stretch. But then they kind of turned it on in the second half, and it was awesome. And we got a motorcyclist celebrating the win outside.
As they should. The Mavericks dominated the second and third quarters of this game, outscoring the San Antonio Spurs what would be a combined 70 to 41 in the second and third quarters. That's where the game was won for the Dallas Mavericks. A 32-point second quarter, a 38-point third quarter, outscoring the Spurs 38 to 18 in that third quarter as the Mavericks were able to cruise to that 110-93 win. The Spurs outscoring the Mavericks 24-17 in the final period, but that didn't necessarily matter because the game was well out of hand. The Mavericks had their biggest lead of the night at 26 points. So again, taking care of business the way that they needed to, and that was the theme for us going into tonight's game. Handling your business, being able to get out of here healthy as you get ready to take on an Oklahoma City Thunder team.
Oh my God, that game's going to be so tough.
It's going to be tough. Even with the injuries that the Thunder have been dealing with, they're still playing well. They're playing a lot smaller these days, obviously led with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and others. But it's never an easy task to take on one of the best teams in the West. And for tonight, you're able to get that bad taste out of your mouth after losing the last 4 games by a combined 8 points. Get home in front of this AAC home crowd. Get yourself a win. Have a few nice moments in this game. But most importantly, get a W in the win column because they needed to after what they've been through over the last 10 days without a win. And now you can build, hopefully, on some of that momentum on a tough home road back-to-back as you get ready to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road tomorrow.
Have you seen clips of them defend?
Yeah, they had the Suns in hell the other night.
It is it legitimately horrifying.
Yeah.
They are so good at defense.
Yeah.
They are so good at defense. And I'm sure we'll talk about Luka at some point during the show, but Luka did not look like he had another gear tonight. Oh my God. Going up against them whenever you're not at your best has got to be the worst. That is the worst way to spend a weekend ever.
I mean, it's Oklahoma City is already bad enough, but then you got to go play the Thunder.
Fine town, but you're right.
That's no shade.
It's no Dallas.
It's definitely no Dallas.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But the Mavericks, they can worry about that tomorrow. Tonight, they get a win at home over the San Antonio Spurs. Much more ahead here on our DLLS Mavs post-game show. What was the turning point in this game? Plus, Tim Cato, our Mavericks beat writer, going to be joining us, as well as Marc Stein, our national NBA insider, live from the American Airlines Center. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs post-game show.
They say first impressions are important, but what about lasting impressions? That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew helps boost your confidence in the bedroom so you can stay hard and perform at your very best. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visit to the doctor's office, no awkward convos, no waiting in the line at the pharmacy. It's all good, man. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Does it work? Don't think you need it? Try it free for a month and see. You're going to love it. Your partner's going to love it. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the pod.
It's game time here on the DLLS Mavs post-game show, and you can get your tickets with Game Time as you're able to go to any of these events that you love to go to, like concerts, basketball games, football games, or for me, I'm a big wrestling fan. So make sure you check out Game Time and its new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting your tickets for your favorite live events even easier. As I mentioned, I'm going to WrestleMania in Las Vegas in April at Allegiant Stadium, and Game Time was able to help me find my tickets and be able to do so hassle-free. They got their all-in pricing to be able to use total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. They've got panoramic seat views as well from your seat in the app before you buy your tickets as well. And they got the lowest price guarantee, and they will credit you 110% of the difference. Make sure that you're using Game Time to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account with code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time. What time is it, Bobby? Game time.
Cat?
Who?
Game time?
And it's time to bring in, apparently, our Mavericks beat writer live from the American Airlines Center. You can find him on X at Tim_Cato. He is, of course, our guy, Tim Cato. Tim, what's going on?
Tim, you moved quick tonight.
We are waiting on Luka-Doncic, who's going to speak tonight. We weren't sure whether he was going to speak. So if he wasn't going to talk, I thought about just hustling myself over to the studio and hanging out with you guys in person. But
if you catch wind that Luka is talking, could you just like take your computer with you into the press conference room and just kind of like about face and?
Well, let me just set it in front of him, and then Luka joins the show.
Yeah, we'll just talk to. I mean, you said Luka's doing media.
Exactly.
Like, well, I mean, what are we? Chop
exactly. Are we not media?
Yeah.
Yeah, we ask him all the questions. I think he would love to do that. He famously is an enjoyer of the media experience, and at last, he can finally fulfill his wish of coming on DLLS. MAVS, the post-game show.
I hear him talking about it all the time, Kevin.
That's right. Shout out to Mark
I was just
W.
in the locker room, and he was talking about it.
Shout out to Mark W. Oh, hey, look, it's my favorite guys post-gaming, my favorite team. Shout out to you, Mark. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Let's talk about the turning point of this game as the Mavericks get the 110-93 win over the San Antonio Spurs, and really it took place in the second quarter. The Mavericks were able to take what was a 55-47 lead with a minute and a half left in the period after Kyrie Irving's three-pointer. That was part of a 20-7 run after the Mavericks were down 40-35 halfway through that second quarter. That happened over a 5-minute span. It felt like that's where the Mavericks were able to really turn this game around after what was a sluggish start in the first quarter, being down by 5, 28-23. The Mavericks offensively were able to get it going and use that big run, Tim, to really get this game on and turned around for them.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was the third quarter. I just thought that they came out with better intensity in the third. By the way, I'm not rolling my eyes at anything you guys say. This is me checking the hallway to see when Luka walks by. In which case, if he's early, I think I'm good for this segment. Maybe even a little bit of next. But when he walks by, I'm gonna run out and do his press conference.
Sure.
But yeah, I just thought the third quarter was better. The first half was bad. I am glad that this team for their own sakes, finally ran away with this game in the way that they should. And all things considered, it was a convincing enough win. It was exactly what they were supposed to do against a team like this. But I would say the concerns that grew from this 4-game road trip or 4-game losing streak, even acknowledging that I still think this team is good, and some of it was just tough, close, tight losses. There's still some concerns that popped up in the first half. The offensive rebounding was, I didn't think it was egregious, but they still allowed 13 overall offensive rebounds. Or San Antonio got 13 offensive rebounds. About halfway through the third quarter, it was 11. So this is not something that just got tallied up in garbage time. In the third quarter,
that was in the first
right.
half, to be fair, but still.
How many?
7 was in the first half alone, so it was.
Yeah,
I guess that is half. Never mind. I thought I was cooking, and instead I just reiterated the truth.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
Unbelievable, Bobby. Classic. So there's one thing that Jason Kidd's already talked, and one thing he said about both the choppiness, the disconnection that we kind of saw in the first half, he did acknowledge that Maxey's starting and he's on a minute restriction, that PJ is on a minutes restriction. These guys are coming in for 4 or 5 minutes. In Maxey's case, he's starting quarters, and then they're coming out. And he said that might be lending itself to a little bit of the choppiness that we're seeing from the team. I think there's maybe some validity to that. I could see how that's happening. Jason Kidd also said that, I asked him if PJ's minutes restriction was 20 minutes, and he said it was 19. So he clearly hit that on the. I think he was being a little jokey with that answer, since he played him exactly 19 minutes. But he did note that he was not sure whether PJ is going to be available tomorrow. In Jason Kidd talk, that means literally nothing. I have no clue whether to read into that he is or is not going to be available. But it is worth noting that it's not a 100% certainty that PJ is going to be out there tomorrow against Oklahoma City. But I think the choppiness was more than just players coming in and out of the rotation. And there are still some lingering concerns that Dallas needs to they can put them to rest. They just need to do that against a better opponent than the San Antonio Spurs without Wembanyama and Vassell.
I want to push back a little bit. Because they did blow it open in the third. They went plus 20 in the third, which is obviously nice. But, considering kind of the tenor of the situation at the end of the first quarter, Mavs build a lead. They get off to their first good start like ever. They were up 11-4, immediately give it back. Luka commits a bro, what are you doing kind of foul with 0.0001 left on the clock in the first quarter. Mavs are down 5. Oh boy. But then like Kyrie happens in the second quarter, and Najee added a couple plays, Gafford had a couple plays, and it's kind of like, okay, they kind of just like
Kyrie offensively settled them down in that second quarter.
Yeah, they I don't know, it just kind of felt like, yeah, they really just bossed the second and third quarters. In the third quarter they just said, yeah, like go home, just go home. But at the second quarter felt like some sort of like a little resilience, a little we're not gonna. But then I say that they did take the lead in the fourth quarter against Denver and Utah, and they were winning against Phoenix, and they were winning against Golden State. So like we have seen them do this, but they just give it right back. But
I am probably guilty of having my narrative about the third quarter set probably like 3 minutes to go with 2:42, or let's see, around 2:42. It was still a tie ball game, 47-47. Dallas did a good job, absolutely, really pushing on the gas and finishing. They got the lead up to 55-47. Then conceded 4 points to San Antonio. You're absolutely right. The second quarter was better. It was headed in the right direction. It was headed in the direction to allow what happened in the third quarter to happen. So thank you. You're right to call me out on that.
It's a little bit of steadying. You gotta crawl before you walk. You gotta walk before you run.
Yeah, they were able to build that momentum up, especially in that second quarter. I mean, it carried over into the third quarter. They started, on an 11-2 run to push the lead to 13 early on with just over 9 minutes left in the period. Spurs closed it to within 6 again at 66-60 with 8 minutes left. But then the Mavericks outscored the Spurs in the final 8 minutes of that third quarter, 27-9, to really put the game away and out of reach. Daniel Gafford was really good in that third quarter with 12 points, including his poster dunk on Zach Collins that really got the crowd out of its seats, and that gave him a 21-point lead. That came with just under 2 minutes left in that third quarter. So the second quarter building upon itself in that third quarter, putting those two together, the Mavericks were able to really distance themselves from the Spurs in this game. And again, comfortably be able to get into the fourth quarter to be able to take this thing home. But yeah, when you're able to dominate in the paint the way that the Mavericks were able to do in that first half, they shot 52% from the field. PJ Washington, as we mentioned, had two steals in that first half. But Luka and Kyrie each had 11, and Daniel Gafford really came to play tonight. I thought for him, we've been talking about him a lot in terms of the effort that he's been describing that the Mavericks needed. It felt like for him, this was a get-right game for Gafford as well, given some of the issues that he had, especially in the rebounding department for him.
Yeah. Daniel Gafford was much better. He said in the post game that he's been challenging himself to play with energy and effort to be better on the defensive glass, and he was. I thought that was for somebody who keeps talking about the team's activity, the team's energy, the team's effort. I thought that he definitely brought that in a much more serious way than over the past few games. So important game from him. He's still a very good player. He had not been his best over the past week plus. Here, let me ask you guys this though. What Luka hasn't talked yet. I'm going to head to his press conference. What's the questions for Luka right now? What are we thinking about Luka? Kind of quiet night. I'm actually a little surprised he's talking. Sometimes in a blowout win where his stat line is not not a standout stat line, then it's okay for him to take the night off. But since he's going to the podium, what are you guys thinking in terms of him and his performances and just how he's looking? And if you have any questions, by all means, throw them out there. Same for the chat.
I mean, he won't answer it because he'll just say he's fine, but something's not right with Doncic. Like, he's had some big numbers games the first 13 games of the year. But just watching him over the first 6 years of his career and the way that he had started this year, something fit, at least to me, and I could be off base. Bobby, you can help me out. Something physically seems off with him, and I don't know where to necessarily put the finger on it, whether it's the knee, it's the calf, but something, at least for me, physically doesn't seem right with him through these first 13 games.
He's not really moving very well. He's just not.
Yeah.
He did have a couple nice drives in the second half.
Like, there's been spurts of things.
Yeah, he was able to get to
the
them a little, but then there was like the play to open. I think it was the second quarter. He's going ISO, gets a guy in the air, pump fakes. Normally that's like a up and under, contact, fadeaway, something, but he just kind of like froze and didn't really do anything, and then left his feet and then threw a pass directly to a Spur. It's like, man, what was that? This is very uncharacteristic.
He found a wide open PJ Washington out of bounds.
Yeah, he slung a pass like right to Castle. Just right to Castle.
Mm-hmm.
Just like really weird. I don't know, just really weird. The foul on my arch nemesis Julian Champagny right at the end of the first quarter. Again, just very weird. It's just it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel normal.
Yeah, and when Luka's at his best, those three-pointers look so crisp. And if he's missing them, he's not often shorting them, even the long ones. He's not short-arming them, or he's not, it's almost, you do have to almost wonder whether he can generate the same level of power. I agree with you that the drives look slow. The drives, when he does drive successfully, it feels very predicated on his getting the defender off balance, which he can do moving slowly, but it feels like that's the only way right now that he's really shaking defenders, is by through a series of dribble moves, by just being smarter than them, being able to read their instincts, their defensive instincts, and send them one way when he wants to go the other, and being able to recognize that. It feels just very predicated on that. And the best version of Luka can get to the rim even off his first step. That's not to say that he isn't brilliant on his second step, on his third step, on the misdirection, on the decel, and then resell. But the best version of Luka is also a capable player of beating his man as Chris Paul just walks by. He's in a navy blazer. But yeah, the best version of Luka can get to the rim on his first step.
Is it like slim fit, or is it kind of loose fit, or
it might have been a cardigan.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool.
Jeremy Sohan walked by right behind him. I didn't really see what he was wearing, but yeah.
What were you looking at?
I think it was a white T-shirt.
Oh, okay. That's kind of lame.
I thought I'm supposed to only talk about the Mavericks and cover them.
Chris Paul dressed for a win. Jeremy Sohan dressed for a loss. That's my hot take.
Dressed like he wasn't playing. Sounds like.
Oh Jesus.
Well, yeah, I thought Sohan was invisible out there.
You never know. Let's take our next.
You ever heard that
here,
joke before? It's a joke. What? You ever heard that joke before? It's a joke about how a player didn't play, and so they kind of looked invisible. Because sometimes
I think Luka must be talking soon. Luka must be talking soon.
They're not very good. You say they're invisible.
He's on the way. I heard him. I heard Luka's going to the press conference room right now.
I can hang out after the break, but yeah, I'll probably just go set up for Luka unless you guys have anything else for me.
Well, we'll take our break and then we'll come back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's definitely break time.
All right, let's take our next break here on the DLS Mavs postgame show. When we come back, more with our guy Tim Cato live from the American Airlines Center. And plus, later on in our show, our national NBA insider Marc Stein going to be joining us to provide us his thoughts and some news in the NBA media world as well that's taking center stage going forward as well. All that and more coming up next year on the DLS Mavs postgame show.
From hardwood to hardwood, let's talk about Empire today, where you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. They keep shopping for floors simple with the curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. They pride themselves on their convenient shop-at-home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in their home's lighting and decor so you can make an informed decision on your flooring future. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Again, see empiretoday.com/DLLS and use promo code DLLS to save yourself 350 big ones.
And with all that money you save, you can get yourself some nice active wear from Rowback by using code DLLSMAVS20. It's simple. They have the best fit, the best feel. The quality of the gear speaks for itself when it comes to Rowback activewear. They've got performance hoodies designed for comfort and built for activity, moisture wicking, as my guy Kavanaugh would say, and breathable fabric as well. They've even got performance polos and shorts that are classic and stylish as well. Stylish, that's a word maybe. But you can use the code DLLSMAVS20 on rollback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all polos, hoodies, and shorts with code DLLSMAVS20. So make sure you check them out today, and they'll have you ready for whatever travels or activities you have. Shout out to Rowback.
I love hoodies, dude.
I love hoodies. It is hoodie season.
Oh my God, we're here.
We are here.
We did
make
it.
sure you get yours at rowback.com today. Back here on the DLS Mavs post-game show, our guy Tim Cato live at the American Airlines Center. I want to get in our super chat that we had a little bit earlier as well. Shout out to my guy K-Lou with dope content entertainment.
Let's go.
K-Lou
with the $4.99 super chat. Finally, a win. Salute to you, K-Lou. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
No, salute to the Mavs and K-Lou, of course. But
exactly.
Don't be saluting us. We didn't do anything. Salute the team. And K-Lou, salute yourself. God, dude, like we said at the top of the show, I don't remember what wins feel like. It just, whenever you're in,
it's been 10 days.
You're mired in one of those slumps. It feels like you were never going to win again. You know, like it just feels like you were cursed. It feels like this team was snake bitten.
Well, the way that they had lost their last 4 games in kind of historical fashion, losing them in a combined 8 points, had a chance to tie or win the game in each of those 4 games, and were unable to come away with a win. It felt like something that we hadn't seen before because, that's right, we hadn't seen that before.
Oh my God.
With the opportunities that they had to win
worst.
those games. But hey, you get that bad taste out of your mouth tonight with a win. The tough road continues when you take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow on the road as they look to get back-to-back wins. But
Sam, whenever you were like looking off screen, it looked like you were thinking of poetry or something. Like, you thinking about your article? Or what?
No. I already started writing that. No, I was looking at Castle. Stephon Castle just walked by.
Roback hoodie?
And no. And then
Poppin'
there's a
blue
player next
chews?
to him. I think Malachi Branham was next to him, and he was wearing an all-red jumpsuit, like sweatsuit.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
He was dressed for a win.
Or
Jeremy
trying to make a
Sohan
fast
was
statement.
wearing, or not Jeremy, Stephen Castle was wearing just a gray T-shirt, kind of a darker gray, like a charcoal gray.
Get it together, Stephon.
Nothing wrong with Gray. Nothing wrong
No,
with that
gray
at
is
all.
great. Oh yeah, duh. We got the king
Come
of
on,
grays.
man.
right
Pick
here.
it up
Wimby
now.
is walking
Pick it
by.
up now.
Wimby is walking by with a jean jacket and a white T-shirt, and I don't
That
know.
Louis
some
Vuitton
other...
jacket that Wimby had on was kind of cold. Not gonna lie to you.
Oh, it was Louis. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was
How
cold.
much do you think that his version of the Louis Vuitton denim jacket cost?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, do you think it's the same listed price as like the youth large, or do you think he's got to pay
What?
extra?
It's probably a little more. Right? Just
Because like, you know, like
probably
the
just a
extra
tad more.
large costs the same as small. Like it's all the same, even though it's more material. So actually, if you're buying bigger clothes, you're a sucker. You know, you should buy 2 smalls and glue them together, and then you're
doing a lot of heavy lifting with
yeah.
the youth smalls right
Yeah,
now.
I feel like Wimby can't shop in the big and tall section. I don't think that was meant. Like that was meant for people actually shorter than him, even if you are a tall person.
That's
Yeah.
Anyway, what do y'all think? What do y'all think about the OKC game coming up? Who's? I think it's Dereck Lively. Dereck Lively needs to feast. Really, both centers.
It's gonna be tough, man.
We were talking about a little bit earlier how well Oklahoma City's playing defensively. I mean, they're playing smaller, obviously, without Chet Holmgren, without Hartenstein, but they are demons on the defensive end. I mean, between obviously Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is a steel merchant. He can get his hands on everything. Obviously, Alex Caruso on the defensive end as well. Jalen was like, all these guys are flying around, playing well on that end.
They got
of the floor.
Isaiah Joe defending.
Yeah, like all of
they're
them.
I would
have
say-
bought in.
I would say their hands specifically, their hands as a defensive trait, you know, whether they're getting steals specifically, whether they're getting deflections, whether they're pawing in and getting a piece of the basketball as you are driving, they're the best team in the league when it comes to hands as a defensive trait. It is so impressive. If you are in the lane, you cannot think that the basketball is not going to be affected unless you're very decisive, very specific with what you're trying to do, because otherwise there is a very real chance that it is going to be hitting the floor. It is going to be knocked out, and it is quite frankly very possibly going to be going the other way.
What this is setting up for is a lot of those soft lobs over the top to the bigs, which every single one of them ended in a turnover against the Warriors and against the Jazz and against. If you're a big, first off, if the guard or wing completes the pass to you, which that is its own journey. But if you catch it up here against a team like OKC, you got to keep the ball here.
Just keep it up
High.
Yeah.
Keep it
You have to
above your
stay high.
shoulders. Keep it above your chest. Do not bring the ball down. If you're Lively or Gafford, you catch it 7 feet from the rim.
Yeah.
Keep it up here. Pivot, turn. I mean, this is the kind of game against OKC. This is the kind of game where Lively developing that little turnaround, developing a little touch. You know, we've seen Gafford make a few of those this season as well, and you know, throughout his career. Like, you don't have to score everything right at the rim. I don't want a player taller than Luka to dribble tomorrow. Like, that's how dangerous OKC is.
Yeah, and to the point about, you know, the deflections in the hands of the Oklahoma City Thunder, that is extremely disruptive to an offense. Like, trying to get yourself into rhythm offensively with constant deflections and constantly the ball getting loose and knocked around, that's extremely disruptive to an offense. So good thing for the Mavericks. This is a team that's top 3 in the NBA in terms of fewest turnovers per game. This team is averaging less than 13 turnovers per contest. Their ability to value the basketball is going to be key against a team like Oklahoma City, who does like to get their hands on the basketball as much as they do. And their ability to do that will be something that we'll be watching, obviously, for tomorrow's game.
They allow 100.8 points per 100 possessions.
Yeah, the Thunder are demons on the defense.
It's on pace for a historic defense. Oh, what's the terminology? But defense as compared to the league average. Because that's the best way to track it. I've got one more thing, and I have people saying that Luka's about to head to the podium, so I'm going to run and do that.
Sources. All right.
Just to state the obvious, the reason we're talking about OKC is because there's only so much you can take away against a win against San Antonio, missing two of their two best players. This was a game that was necessary, needed. This was a game that showed that Dallas has pride after, 3 just dismally disappointing defeats and then a really embarrassing one. This was a game that showed that they, are serious about, getting this right. But beyond that, there isn't so much you can take away. Even Daniel Gafford, I am glad Daniel Gafford had a good game, but I want to see him. I want to see if he can perform against a small Oklahoma City series. And now I see Luka, so I'm gonna head out.
Bye, Tim.
Tim.
Go ask Luka how he's doing today. Oh,
there he's going.
A couple quick things.
Yep.
Number 1, the Hornets beat the Bucks tonight.
Oh my gosh!
Just think about that.
The Bucks are in hell.
There's a lot to think about right now, folks.
There's
a lot to think about.
There's 3 teams that are in hell right now. The Pelicans.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Mavs.
No. If they had lost tonight, they definitely would have been. But the Pelicans, I know they got to win. I forget who they beat last time, but they won. But Pelicans, the Bucks, and you know who else is in hell right now? The 76ers, damn it. They are in complete hell right now with the injuries that they're dealing with.
My other thing. So to give you an idea, Tim was talking about relative defensive rating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To give you an idea of how much better OKC is defensively than everybody else, the Mavs, after tonight's game, believe it or not, number 6 defense in the NBA. And that's after having some real icky statistical performances against teams like the Pacers, the Warriors, the Nuggets, and the Suns. Okay. They're the number 6 defense in the NBA. They allow 110.2 points per 100 possessions. The Thunder are in first. They allow 100.8 points per 100 possessions. There is a 9.4 point gap between 1 and 6. There is, between the Mavs and 30th place Washington, an 8.2 point gap. So the Mavs are closer to dead last in the league in defensive rating than they are to first, and they are 6th. That is how good OKC has been defensively this season. And, it's not like they're playing God teams every night, but who is? They are just shutting everybody down. It's very, 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 it's going to be a unique challenge for sure.
It will be. And for this team, obviously last year, what was a terrific series for Dallas, taking out the Thunder in the Western Conference semifinals, were eventually going on to take on the Timberwolves and beat them in the West Final to advance to the finals last year. It's going to be fun to watch these two teams get together. Obviously, this will be the first meeting of the season between the Mavericks and the Thunder, and hopefully for PJ Washington, he will be available. We will see what his availability looks like. Before we take our next break and get Marc Stein on, can
I give you one more?
One more.
So opponents this year are turning it over 19.7% of the time on their possessions. A turnover 1 every 5 times down the floor. Okay, that is 2.4 percentage points higher than the second place Sixers at 17.3. The Sixers are closer to 12th place than they are to first place. The Thunder are playing defense at a different level altogether.
It's mind-boggling. I mean,
but it's going to require every single player to be sharp and be crisp with the ball with all your passes. Don't take any chances. Dribble the ball hard.
Yeah.
And if you're Luka and Kyrie, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. You got to try and fight through the fatigue, fight through all that stuff, and make the right play.
Yeah, and again, this is a team in the Mavericks who are top 3 so far this season in terms of fewest turnovers per game. They understand about valuing the basketball. It's been in clutch time where they haven't valued it nearly as much as they've done throughout the first 43, 44 minutes of ball games. Shout out to Dope Content one more time with the super chat here on the Dlls MAVS postgame show. The $4.99 super chat says,
"Let's go.
The Bucks losing is what happens when you hire the most overrated coach ever." Damn. Shots fired at Doc Rivers, who is
he's so unpopular with fans, at least. He's an easy target for fans.
Well, because a lot of us feel like he's not necessarily good at this, but he's been hanging on to the coattails of a 2008 championship for what now? 15, 16 years at this point?
He did, dude. Like, I want to give Doc
all them 3-1 leads that he blew when he was with, the Clippers.
I need to give Doc a little love, though. Like, he coached that Magic team in, was it 2000 or 2001? Like, no All-Stars. They ended up making the playoffs, I think. But they finished 500 despite, like, I think DA was their best player. And then in 2018 or 2019, there was a Clippers team that was the 8 seed, and they, I think, took Golden State to 6 or 7 games. And, like, they didn't have any All-Stars either. That was before they got Kawhi or Paul George, I think. Their best player was like Pat Bev and Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah.
Lou Will. Like, I feel like Doc has had some really, really good seasons. But the Bucks are not having a good season. That is indisputable.
No,
that is
they are
indisputable.
not having a good season at all when it comes to Milwaukee. Shout out to Bobby, who was Nostradamus on that prior to the season starting.
I do know ball sometimes.
He does know ball. Let's take our last break here on the DLS Mavs post-game show. When we come back, our national NBA insider Marc Stein going to be joining us live from the American Airlines Center. What Luka Doncic had to say about tonight's game as well. Plus, we look ahead to tomorrow's game as the Mavericks take on the Oklahoma City Thunder in a rematch of the Western Conference semifinals. All that and more coming up next year on the DLS Mavs post-game show.
So the Mavs won a game tonight to get back on track, hopefully. But you know what's always been on track? YouTube.com/@DLLS_sports.
Because it's definitely
always
not
been on
Netflix.
track because we are bringing you. Yeah, no, absolutely not. Well, don't jinx it, but our YouTube channel has never crashed outside of that one time when we lost power here for a second during a Cowboy show.
But that wasn't our fault.
Or that was Stars, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't remember. It's never happened to us, though.
It's never happened to us.
We're fine.
We're fine.
But we're bringing you pre- and post-game coverage for every Mavs game this season, also for every Stars game, every Cowboys game. Whenever Rangers get started back up, we'll be doing that. We got Dallas Wings coverage on the way. We got FC Dallas coverage on the way. And a whole lot more going here. All of that stuff is free. But if you want to support what we're doing and gain access to some of this premium content, then you can go to alldls.com/diehard or click the QR code that's right. Oh, my God.
You got it?
Right
there it is. Yeah.
You can click, or not. Well, you don't click on that. You point your phone at it, I guess.
Yeah, you point your phone at
and
it.
do that.
Sure.
Or you can click the link in the description below. And it'll take you to a website where we're going to ask you for less than $7 a month. And if you give us less than $7 a month, then you're going to gain access to all the premium written content on the site from Tim Cato on Mavs and all other beat writers on their teams. You are going to be able to join the DLLS Diehard Discord Lounge, where we're spreading positivity and also commiserating sometimes whenever your team loses 4 one-shot games in a row. You are going to gain a free shirt when you sign up, and you're going to get a discount on future shirt purchases, discount on events. We got some of those coming. You're going to get early access to those events as well, and you're going to get a whole lot more bennies, man. It's a really good time. So, again, all of this stuff on YouTube, hey, if you want to sub to our channel, that's great. If you just want to like the stream and comment and watch past, hey, that's great too. But if you want to support what we're doing, it would really mean a lot to me and a lot to Kevin and a lot to everybody here at DLLS Sports if you could go to that description below and become a diehard. So many people have done it, and they're all cool. And you want to be cool, don't you?
Yeah, you do. AllDLLS.com/diehard. Become a diehard member today. Show off that physical diehard card as well. Tag us on social media, and we'll shout you out as well as we continue here on our
Sarah's
DLLS.
Sarah's about to get her shirt. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
As we continue here on our DLLS Mavs post-game show, we welcome in our national NBA insider. You can always dial up the Stein line at the Stein line. He is, of course, Marc Stein. Marc, what's going on?
Guys, how are you? Glad to finally connect. It's been a bit crazy back here in the dark alleys of the AAC, but was able to hear a few minutes of Luka. I'm sure you guys saw that our man, Mr. Cato, asked him about his health status, and Luka acknowledged that he is, quote, a little bit less than 100%. So for him, that's a pretty, that's a rare admission that the body is not functioning as perfectly as he would like it. But I really just wanted to, I am excited to see what the Corella Strader is like after a blowout win, which in the history of the show has never happened.
Well, Mark, it's
I seem rather subdued. Maybe it's just because I'm joining the show 45 minutes into it, but
maybe so. So here's the thing, right? Like, here at DLLS Sports and here on the DLS Mavs podcast, we acknowledge that every team is good. There's a reason that every team is in the NBA. There's a reason every player's in the NBA. But when you're going up against the Spurs at home, they just played last night. No Wemby, no Vassell. You're thinking the Mavs should be up by 20 in the third quarter, and they should not have to play their starters in the fourth quarter. And that's what happened. So it was like, it's almost like maybe my expectations were too high. I don't feel necessarily sad or nonplussed, but
for 2 quarters there was very scant indication that you would be getting that kind of second half.
I know, and those were some heady times, Mark.
On that basis, you should be pretty giddy.
I mean, look, this is a win that you were supposed to get, much like the one you were supposed to get on Thursday against the Utah Jazz. I think for me, the word I would use is workmanlike. Yes, you had a bad start in the first quarter. That's been a theme for this team. So, ho-hum, bad start first quarter, okay. But the final, especially the second and third quarters, like you dominated the way that you needed to. You got out to a big run, 20-7 run to turn it around, get a 4-point lead at halftime. You come out with 11-2 run to be able to get yourself a double-digit lead. Then you get on a 27-9 run of the final 8 minutes of the third quarter to put the game away. Like, you did what you had to do, but I'm not impressed. Like, this is a business. I'm not impressed. I mean, let me back up. Every win in the NBA is hard to get. I'm not taking away of how difficult it is to win in this league. But as Bobby mentioned, you played against a team without their best player. Devin Vassell didn't play in this game either. Like, this game was tailor-made for you. If that you played up to your capabilities, you would handle business. They did that in 2 of the 4 quarters.
And that's good.
And that's good.
That is good.
And they did that in 2 of the 4 quarters that they needed to and found a way to get rid of a 4-game losing streak. But to say that I'm impressed with this, no. I'm not impressed with a win like this.
I just was expecting some more. I think it would, and it's and not necessarily from you, because you're the one responsible for keeping this show on track. It was more, I expected an ebullient Corellustrator. And look, the screen on my phone at which I'm looking at the beautiful DLS Sports Lounge, it's very small, so I can't really say that I have a great feel, but Bobby is definitely a little bit more subdued than I was expecting. Because look, the Spurs, no Wemby. The Mavs had the rest advantage. If there was finally going to be a score line that turned out the way we expected, this was the night. But after Thursday night's performance, I stopped having expectations, and the first half was plenty. The first half was plenty clunky. So for the night to end as comfortably as it did, I'm happy for the Corella.
Let me share some things that I'm happy about, Mark. I'm happy that, first off, I'm happy that Najee Marshall's on this team. I just really like watching that guy play. I just like him a lot. What can I say? I also like Quentin Grimes. I thought he had maybe not as loud of a game as he did against Utah, but he was just solid off the bench. And those two connected in transition, and that was cool. Mm-hmm. I'm happy that Daniel Gafford came off the bench and was very, very productive. I think that, and I said this before the season started, if Gafford is going up against backup big men, and this is no disrespect to Charles Bassey, but if Gafford is spending the majority of his minutes against backups, he's going to do stuff like this a lot. Like, he's going to have some really gaudy stat lines.
You remember what I texted in the first quarter, the combination of Zach Collins and Charles Bassey was giving Dallas all kinds of trouble. So it was nice to see that fixed in the second half, because early I was sitting there saying, we did have the staff texting discussion about what the Mavs have won 4 first quarters out of 13 this season. And we initially thought it was 3. So even tonight, after a game like Utah, it was another less than convincing start. And, Collins and Bassey were causing trouble early. So it was good that the Mavs were able to turn that around. And Gafford did have a very strong game off the bench, no question.
That block Bassey had on Gafford was so nice. God, it was so good.
That block he had on Gafford, we was like, oh, bleep, like, damn, like, what is happening here?
That was authoritative.
I will say, Stein, you was doing some heavy lifting with the whole Twin Towers jump off. Like, he was doing a lot there with the whole Tim Duncan.
Hyperbole for the purely for the purposes of the in-staff on-game, the staff-only in-game discussion. I was troubled on press row watching Collins and Bassie just rampage against the Mavericks in that first.
Yeah, it was not fun, to say the least, in that first quarter. But again, you handle business, a team that now gets ready to go on the road to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll get to that here in a second. I want to make sure we touch on this before we get to that, because we'll have time to look ahead to the game tomorrow. But some news coming in the NBA media world that is kind of unexpected, and the way that it's going to be coming about when it comes to inside the NBA and TNT and ESPN getting together.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal with a huge story tonight. You don't typically see something like this on a Saturday night. But the Wall Street Journal reporting that on top of ESPN, I'm sorry, on top of the league and Turner settling its outstanding legal issues, that Turner has struck a deal to license inside the NBA to ESPN. What that basically means, like we see with the Pat McAfee show that basically was a YouTube show and now just runs on ESPN pretty much in its original form. This means that starting next season, Turner will continue to produce inside the NBA out of Atlanta the way it always has, and ESPN will have the right to air it, which means that inside the NBA should stay intact and the way that everybody loves to consume that show. Because if you want to get really like inside baseball on the media part of this, Ernie Johnson is a Turner lifer. He's been there, for so long. He makes me look like a rookie. And basically the word throughout the industry was Ernie's not going to leave TNT. That if you want to keep inside the NBA on the air, you need to leave it in Atlanta with the same production crew as is, and then certainly it can be aired somewhere else. So to me, this is a huge win for the TNT guys to get to continue to do the show the way they've always done it. And it's going to be a win for ESPN to basically just, ESPN has been trying for decades, literal decades, to try to come up with an NBA show that people like on a similar level to inside the NBA. There's been a bazillion iterations. Nothing has come close. And now you find ESPN ABC will get the chance to air inside the NBA. But obviously the biggest winners here are the show's zillions of fans who have been thinking that this was going to be the show's last season. And instead now the show looks like it's going to continue. It'll just air on a different channel. But, that show needs Ernie Johnson, just like on DLLS, we need Kevin Gray at the controls, or else the thing would be a disaster. You can't just say, Charles, Shaq, Kenny, you guys go somewhere else without Ernie. Ernie is an absolute maestro in terms of being the host of that show. And I don't think it would look the same, feel the same, sound the same without him. So because it's going to stay a Turner production, you would imagine that means that Ernie continues as host. And you guys know what that means. It's massive.
As someone who loves the NBA, and obviously you can have your critiques on Kenny and Shaq and Charles's analysis of the game, but what you cannot deny is the entertainment value that the four of them bring every Tuesday and Thursday, mostly Thursdays, obviously, when it comes to the NBA on TNT, and what that means for fans who love and watch the NBA. That show has become an institution, really, over the past, 3 decades at this point, with how long they've been doing this show. So I'm happy as someone who loves media and entertainment and basketball as well, that this show isn't going anywhere. And I'm happy to see that it's going to stick around.
Their behind-the-scenes production team is spectacular, and it gets very little credit. But their whole operation is just they've been doing it for 20 plus years, maybe longer, maybe. And they know exactly what they are as a show. And I think most basketball fans feel the way you're describing. They don't want to see that foursome broken up. And it sounds like this new deal will ensure that they don't have to break up and that they can continue to be an ensemble cast. And you want Ernie at the controls. I mean, he's just, again, he is so good at hosting, which, as you, Kevin, know better than any of the four of us on our little show, it's that can be a more demanding job than it looks like in the brochure.
Yeah, because working with the three of y'all is hell. No, I'm just joking. I love y'all. Y'all are great. I'm just happy I get to be able to help out and keep this thing on track the way we do. But again,
tonight's show, or I didn't understand. What was he? What did he do? Did he manage to show up and give his analysis?
Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he came on the first.
You said that so like Tim?
Like Tim? Yeah. Cato, that guy? Yeah, no, he definitely did his thing for those couple of segments. He had to go listen to Luka and help break the story when it comes to talking about Luka, which I want to touch on with you guys while we're here before we go. Obviously, Luka, as Mark mentioned, admitting that, hey, less than 100%. And we were discussing, like, look, it's something just doesn't feel right with 77 at this point. And with him confirming that, I guess that kind of confirms some of the suspicions that we've obviously have had for him.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'll slide in real quick before you, Mark. Like, if he's not moving well right now after not playing basketball really for the most part of 4 months, I don't know when he's gonna look good again. That spooks me. I'm a little spooked.
That's a great point.
I'm not a lot of spooked, but I am a little spooked. Mark, should I be more spooked than I am, or should I be less spooked than I am?
Well, I'm guessing nothing I could say would unspook you. You are the panic button presser on this show. So.
I don't even have a panic button yet. All right. But I do respect your words greatly.
We should go to Staples, and don't they sell those big red buttons? That seems like something we should have on set for you to.
I have looked into it. That's what I can say.
Look, first of all, it wasn't 4 months. And secondly, he came into camp, I think, ready to go. I was in Slovenia in late August. I mean, he was not ready for training camp at that point. But then after the China trip with Tatum and Zion and Paolo Banchero, he did get 3 solid weeks in before training camp. He was practicing with the team in Slovenia that his dad, Sasha, is essentially their GM. So, and then the day before media day, he took this inadvertent shot to the calf in a pickup game, and he hasn't been right from that point to me. So, but yeah, I mean, look, if he is not right, I mean, yeah, like, deal with it right now. Like, there's no, if playing through it is not working, tackle it some other way. But, I don't know that it's time to ultimately start, losing your mind.
So I think a little spooked is, I
think that's what we'll
just a little. Can I be a little spooked?
Like I said, if I said you have absolutely no reason to be worried, would you listen? No.
Yeah. No, I would. I would. You underestimate me?
I don't think I underestimate you. I think I actually know you fairly decently after 3-4 months of doing this. So, no. I don't think.
Well,
look, even Tanner, I can hear Tanner laughing on my
right,
limited.
Tanner, stop laughing. All right, keep it. Don't you have a show to produce or something? God.
Before we let Mark go, let's touch on the game tomorrow night as the Mavericks.
Well, actually, before we do that, like, what? Give me. I also want to know what's the chat vibe. What are the people saying?
Number one, they're happy inside the NBA isn't going anywhere. They're happy about that. But also, I mean, we'll see some of the chat as it goes along here. I think
there's a lot of talk about Luka going on.
Yeah. I think folks understand. They watch the games. They've seen Luka now for going on into his 7th season. They know when Luka looks right and when he doesn't. And you could tell from the beginning of the season till now that something just isn't right with him physically, the way he's been moving, the way that he's been able to get downhill or the lack thereof, and other ways that he has performed in terms of his shooting so far this year, that it just doesn't look right. So I think there's some concern, obviously, because we know that this team goes as 77 takes them. And if he's not going to be right or is going to have to play through this throughout the course of a season, it just continues to raise questions about not just his health now, but the long-term effects of how he continues to have to manage injuries throughout the course, of his young career, which he's done a lot of so far through 6+ seasons in the league at this point.
No, and like I said, I fully expect there to be concern and borderline, I don't want to use the word panic. What's a better word than that? Definite concern and fretting in the chat room. Bobby is certainly not alone there. I mean, until they're spooked. Halloween was last. We're almost a month removed. Nah, not a month. We're 3 weeks removed.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's just something that we'll have to see how he manages throughout the course of the season. It doesn't get any easier tomorrow, as this team will take on the Oklahoma City Thunder for the first time since they met in the Western Conference semifinals. Of course, the Mavericks taking them out to get to the West Finals last year. Oklahoma City playing at an extremely high level defensively, the best team in the league when it comes to defensive efficiency so far this year. And they are going to be licking their chops with the Mavericks team coming in on the second night of a home road back-to-back to get ready to take on the Mavericks tomorrow night. Your thoughts on what that game could present as far as the Mavericks and Thunder tomorrow night?
Well, we know the Thunder, they're without both Holmgren and Hartenstein at this point. So they're going to go small. They force a lot of turnovers, though. And turnovers have been an uncharacteristic issue for this Mavs team pretty much all season. So the Thunder guard you before you get off the team bus. They're barely giving up 100 points per 100 possessions. They are so good defensively. It's ridiculous. And so, yeah, I mean, to have to deal with them that's why winning tonight was so there was no other option. I mean, we said the same thing about Thursday, but after Thursday and the way they lost Thursday, they had to win tonight, because even though it's a very short trip to Oklahoma City, that's the only good thing you can say about having to see the Thunder away on the back end of a back-to-back. I mean, they are a defensive nightmare, and they're in your head before you even get on the plane. So, yeah, tomorrow could be a very, very challenging and difficult evening. Let's not pretend. By the time the four of us get together for tomorrow's viewing and show, I don't expect Bobby to be any less concerned about things.
There's only one team that has a better record than them, and they have not lost a single game this year. So, can you just basically my expectation or my goal, my hope or whatever is to just be competitive, come
out of it healthy.
They do, yeah, come out of it healthy. They do force a lot of turnovers, man. And on the second night of the back-to-back, even though you didn't play a lot,
schedule loss before we even think about it. So
anything, it's a real shame. That's a real shame, Mark, because
you can't be smoking games right now.
Well, but these two teams coming into the season are supposed to be, to some at least, two of the top three, maybe two of the top two teams in the West. And so to schedule a second night of a back-to-back game, that just sucks. It's just lame. I don't like it. Fix it.
Well, I don't like games on Saturday and Sunday back-to-back, but nobody's asking my opinion.
I don't like games
especially
on
with
Sunday
travel
in general
in
during the football season. I don't need that.
Look, but the Mavs, they just won Thursday. They can go into tomorrow with a little bit more freedom. But I'm still trying to work out how they lost that Utah game.
We'll never find the answers.
We will never find the answers to that one for sure. But to the idea of, look, man, if you're trying to potentially quote unquote schedule a loss, like again, the Western Conference doesn't afford you the luxury to do that this year. Like the West is just too damn good for you to be smoking games. I know it's mid-November.
Sitting guys against OKC is not smoking games unless you're talking about Utah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Utah,
okay.
Like you can't just afford to be like, hey, Kyrie, we're gonna let you. Come on, man. Like the West is too good right now for you to feel like you can just.
Was not the reason they lost the Utah game. I mean,
no, it's not. But I'm just saying, like you should have won that game without Kyrie Irving for sure. But again, this just shows you got to come with it every night against these Western Conference teams, man. Even teams that are trying to punt away the season, like Utah.
They played San Antonio twice at home now in the first month of the season, and it was the similar script both times. The first half, the Spurs were right there, and tonight with no Wemby. So, Mavs definitely turned it on second half, but, I mean, that first half performance, again, you tell me. How is Bobby feeling at halftime?
Oh, at halftime, it was all right.
At halftime, he's a little better. After the first quarter, we were both like, what the hell going on here?
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, I'm not going to lie. The first quarter, I was focused more on my dinner than on the basketball. I could not give you many details of what happened in the first quarter, but I did see the score.
What was for dinner?
An unnamed restaurant near our studio, and it was very good. It was really good.
He's not into free advertising here on this show.
Is that why you're not naming the restaurant?
That's right. That's right.
You got to pay for my affection. I don't come cheap.
All right.
I respect it. I low-key respect it. He's trying to get the money right. I get it. That's not personally how I would go about it, but I respect it. He the boss around here, so I respect it.
Our host dinner up to standard? Was that okay?
Say it again.
Kevin's dinner did that deliver?
Yeah, it was. It was great. He paid for it, so it was great. It was great. Free 99 for your boy around here. Shout out to me and Tanner for giving free dinner tonight. Thanks, Bobby.
Hey, my pleasure. Mark, I bought them dinner because I spent all day moving, and I don't remember the last time I slept, and I am like on a different planet right now. So I figured that I would not be of much value tonight. So I made it up for them. Made it up to them preemptively.
He's so nice.
If you're tired, we should put a 30 on this show.
No, we should stay live until 11K.
No, that is not happening tonight.
Was the move successful at least?
It was good. We all survived.
All right, tomorrow night, the four of us will be hanging out.
No, we'll be reveling in glory.
Yes.
After the Mavs shock the world.
Partly because the Cowboys can't lose on Sunday. They have to wait till Monday to do that. So we're all good there.
I think tomorrow I'm flirting with a surprise announcement.
Ooh.
Oh.
I like surprises and I like announcements.
Okay. All right.
I'm flirting with it. I have to think about it.
All right.
Well, let us know.
I like flirting too.
Well, let us know if you can take it out on that date and make sure you show up on time.
Yeah.
So that we can all be a part of the celebration, okay?
All right, guys.
That's our National NBA Insider, Marc Stein. You can always dial the Stein line at the Stein line. Marc, as always, appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
There he goes. Appreciate Marc Stein joining us live from the American Airlines Center. The Mavericks did win, by the way. Just so you know, the Mavericks did win in their 4-game.
I don't think vibes are down. I mean, I think
I just want to make sure that we end on a high note because I felt like
I mean, they did what they needed to do.
They handled business.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Yes,
it is a great thing. Listen, it's a great thing whenever you go through life and you do what you're supposed to do. It's just great.
Yeah,
you handle business. You don't let anything get out of control. You take care of what you need to take care of, and then you get to go home and enjoy a nice, quiet night, stress-free. That is great living.
And then wake up knowing that you got to play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in
That
Oklahoma City Thunder the next day. That does. But hey, that's why they play the games, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the professionals. That's why they get paid the way they get paid to go out there and entertain.
And that's why we don't.
You're damn right. We appreciate all of you, though. All of you are the MVPs of tonight, as you are every single night here on DLLS Mavs. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us here on the post-game show. Our pregame show tomorrow for DLLS Mavs will begin at 5:30 p.m. right here in our DLLS studios. Tip-off at 6 p.m. between the Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Should be a fun one. A lot of star power on the floor between Dallas and Oklahoma City. Again, pregame show begins at 5:30 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports here on YouTube. So really, again, appreciate all of you. As Super Chat Ardell says, Bobby, that shirt is fire.
alldls.com/diehard.
Become a diehard member today.
Ardell knows.
You can get one as well. For our guy, Marc Stein, and Tim Cato from the American Airlines Center, that's Bobby Carella. I'm Kevin Gray. Mavericks win over the Spurs. They take on the Thunder tomorrow. Join us at 5:30 p.m. for the DLLS Mavs pregame show. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.